Panthers, they ideally have a better scenario for Bryce Young. Ideally, he's walking to one of the most resourceful situations of any quarterback that's been drafted number one overall ever. Panthers Nation, what up, dude? Y'all guys know who it is, man. It's Aaron Duncan here with another episode of the Panther Banter Podcast. This is an Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk production. Yes, this is the headquarters of Unnecessary Bluntness. I got a new studio, man. It's a new look. Do not adjust your TV sets. Your boy's in the building, man. I got a new set, man. Trying something different. Trying to step my game up. A little bit of a cleaner look. You guys let me know how you feel about it. If you're watching this in YouTube, or if you listen to the audio, I appreciate you listening to the audio. Audio will always get the priority for this podcast because it's a podcast, man. It's supposed to put some flavor in your ear, man. Shout out to all the audio listeners, man. Give it up for yourselves. The video listeners, I appreciate you tuning in, but I'm telling you, I have something special for audio only. So make sure you're going to the audio first. You're going to get the episode first, and you're going to get first dibs on the special. I'm going to give away every episode for audio listeners. I'm giving away something every episode for audio listeners. So if you're on the audio, stay tuned. Listen to the whole episode. You'll catch the opportunity for some trivia. If you get the trivia correct, you will get a chance to be entered for a giveaway, okay? It ain't going to be that hard that you got to pull out pen and paper and do math. It's going to be Panthers trivia. Video watchers, I love you, but you need to get on that audio. But I am Aaron Duncan, your host. And like I said, this is a different setting. This is a solo episode. I got a couple things to talk about. We're going to talk about number one draft pick in our quarterback, Bryce Young, the history of number one drafted quarterbacks, the reality of number one drafted quarterbacks, and what this means for Bryce. We got to look at the numbers and the trends and the history behind things because history repeats itself. Is that what that people say? I don't know. Regardless, this is just a little bit different setting though, man. I'm going to try to keep it real chill on this guy, man. And I don't know. This is just something. It's going to be a good episode. Today, we're talking about the number one overall pick. We're talking about the quarterback that the Panthers have in Bryce Young. I'm excited about this thing. So let's go ahead and get into it because the thing about it, just something that's on my mind, and I guess we can call this segment "What's Bug and Dunk." Not really was Bug and Dunk, just like from the mind of Dunk, I guess is what we can call it. But I've just been thinking about like Bryce Young and just like the 2023 and him getting started here with Carolina, like what this means for the franchise. And I think a lot of fans, especially in 2023, like that are younger, we have a lot more fans that's gravitated to the fan base. And I think Cam Newton was the big reason a lot of fans came. Like, there's a lot of fans that the only quarterback they've ever known as being a fan of the Panthers is Cam. We had a lot of fans that started rooting for this team 2010, 2011, 2012, that area right then when Cam first came in. Maybe it's because they were college fans and they saw Cam and gravitated to him. Maybe because they were just younger. That some of their earliest memories of football has to do with Cam Newton after a 8-9 year run with the team. That's all they knew. And so when he got sent by his way by Matt Rule and the new regime, and Marty Herney, of course, they just kind of went into a tailspin. Now, Matt Rule was not a great hire. I was never a fan of it. Clearly, it didn't work out. But anything he did, anything the team has done since Cam Newton has been dismissed, per se, I guess, for lack of better words, there's a faction of the Panthers fan base that just hates everything about it. Like, they don't care. The Panthers could find a cure for cancer, and the Panthers are not going to hate it. They're going to find a way to criticize. And I get it. There's some sour grapes and some bad blood that has to do with it, but, like, we can still be objective on certain things. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to get overly excited, just whatever, and just think everything they do is turns to gold. But at the same time, like, we got to give credit where credit is due when stuff happens. We have to realize that we've turned the page on that regime. Everything we've seen this offseason from David Tepper and Scott Fitter looks like they've learned from their wicked ways, I guess, and have started to improve things around here, or at least trying to make things that improve. We'll see what happens on the field. But on paper, they've made some logical moves. Now, we can criticize here and there what they might have done, what they might not have done thus far, but it's just hard to really knock them for too much because the coaching hires, the aggressiveness training up for Bryce Young, they've seemed like they are on a mission to get things right, and I commend them for that thus far. Like I said, we'll see how it works out because football's not played on paper. That's paper football. I mean, even paper football is not played on paper. It's played on the table. It's just played with paper. But we'll see how these moves work out, but it's a lot to be excited about. But just going back to like with Cam, I think that like when you come to a fan base when they get a franchise quarterback, like people don't realize the importance of having that franchise quarterback. That's like literally the biggest and most important position on the team. When you have your guy, that's just one thing you just never have to worry about. And with Cam, I personally always felt like we had a franchise quarterback, and with his height, his strength, his size, his ability to run, I felt like we always had a chance to win every game, no matter what, just because he was the franchise quarterback. He was the X factor. He could elevate all the players around us no matter what, no matter who was hurt, no matter who we didn't have, no matter who we did have. I always had faith after a while that it was Cam, and there was a reason that he was our franchise guy and that he would be able to pull this team to victory no matter what. And so I think a lot of people didn't realize how much of a luxury it is to have a franchise quarterback, especially when you have him 8-9 years. That's just something you don't even think about. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think once he left, people just didn't know how to act. You know what I'm saying? So this is the first time a lot of people are going through this scenario of trying to get another franchise quarterback. So this team is still fairly young, of course. Like the fan base is still fairly young and haven't matured per se as a franchise because we're one of the younger teams in the league, of course, but we haven't really got a Super Bowl. There's not really a huge bandwagon of people. There's a good, solid fan base. I love Panthers fans. I've been a Panthers fan for a while, but there's just a faction of this fan base that has not had to deal with this scenario. And like I said, Cam was all they know. And so it's going to be different to watch. This is going to be fun to watch because when Cam was coming up, there wasn't as much access and behind-the-scenes stuff as we have now. Obviously, with social media, Twitter updates, you can see the game anywhere, NFL Sunday Ticket, online streaming as well. There's going to be a lot more eyes on Bryce Young and access and knowledge about what's going on a day-to-day basis and a step-by-step basis versus compared to Cam. Just a different time, different era. Technology advances. It's been, 10 years, 11, 12 years since Cam got drafted. So we have a lot more access, and the narratives can be controlled a lot more by factors outside of just mainstream media. And so I'm excited to see what happens with that and just how Bryce grows and what we get to see and how we see him mature on a day-to-day, week-by-week, year-by-year basis in terms of a quarterback and just as a person and a man in general. Because we know what Cam meant to this community, organization, this fan base. Bryce Young has the juice to be that type of guy. He's not as charismatic as far as like the confidence and the bravado and just the polarizing figure that he is as far as his personality. Him being small makes him polarizing, but I think that he still has the juice and the guts to be able to live up to the hype and the pressure of being a franchise quarterback, let alone the franchise quarterback that this franchise needs because we thirsty. You know what I'm saying? We hurting. This fan base needs one in the worst way. And I'm excited about Bryce's future. But like this, the fans just have to embrace him, man. Like I know he was short. I know you might have wanted C.J. Stroud. I know you might have wanted Anthony Richardson. There's probably some people out there that wanted Levis as well. I get it. They're gone. They're gone. You can go cheer for the Titans if you want to go with Levis. The Colts, I'm sure they have some fans that they'll tell you if you want to get behind AR. The Texans, good luck with that if you want to cheer for them, if you have that quarterback of choice. But it's not really the NBA. Like I think people are more loyal to franchises, and so like I get it. You could be skeptical of the moves. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid and just be happy about everything. But like he's our quarterback now, so why not just get behind him? And I expected some erratic behavior from this fan base because this is the same fan base that still won't let Justin Fields not being drafted go and us picking J.C. Horn. Obviously, people were mad about Derek Brown getting picked over Isaiah Simmons. They're wrong now, but they'll never admit it. These people are always pissed and always skeptical. And hindsight is 20/20 to them, but they don't tell them that. Let them tell it. They knew it from jump that picking whoever was the right move or the wrong move. And so they refuse to get behind Bryce Young because he's short. They think it's not going to work out. It's let it go, man. Let it go, man. We have something to be excited about, and you're choosing willingly not to be excited. I don't feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, I guess is the better way to do it. And then what the great Ariana Grande says. Regardless, let's get behind this guy, man. Let's get behind him. But changing gears real quick, let's talk about the number one overall pick, though. So typically, number one overall pick scenarios that Bryce Young is coming into is going to be very unique compared to, like I said, the typical. Typically, the team is trash. You were the worst team in the league. If you're the worst team in the league, you most likely did not have a quarterback. Most likely. Or a franchise quarterback that you believed in. That was a different case this year. The Bears, they were bad. They think they still have their franchise quarterback, so they elected not to take one. Fine. They traded out with the Panthers. The Panthers went from number 9 to number 1. So that lets you know where they are in the pecking order. Yes, we were in the hunt for it on the playoffs up until the end of the week, up at the end of the year. But they were still a top 10 pick. Now, top 10 is definitely not as bad as number 1 overall, like typical that some quarterbacks go to. And that ends up putting a lot of pressure on guys because when you're that number 1 overall pick, you're so far away from being a good franchise that, like, sometimes the damage gets done from the quarterback because the quarterback's starting day 1. You don't draft the guy number 1 overall to sit him on the bench. So he's starting day 1, and it's baptism by fire. And this is a dog-eat-dog NFL league, man, and sometimes that fire get too hot. Sometimes that fire get too hot. If you can't swim, you bound to drizzle. You bound to drizzle if you can't swim. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a sink and swim league, man. Make or miss, whatever you want to, expression you want to say, it's that type of league. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a grown man league. All those cliches they say about the NFL. But I went back and looked at the list. I mean, the only one that probably had a little bit better, maybe Andrew Luck, because the Colts, the reason they were bad is because they got rid of Peyton Manning the last second. They started Curtis Painter. And then they had still some of the same framework, of course. They got a new coach. They got rid of Jim Caldwell, unfortunately. But they had a team that was not that far away because they literally just needed a quarterback because they were competing when Peyton Manning was there. It's just once he got hurt, they got rid of him, and it was like, oh, okay. But Luck walked in there with Reggie Wayne. He ended up getting a young T.Y. Hilton. It took him a while to get protection and stuff, but they went to the playoffs very early in Andrew Luck's career because this was a playoff caliber roster the year before Peyton Manning left. I mean, yes, there's a lot of turnover in the NFL and stuff, but they weren't that far away. And like I said, you had a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Reggie Wayne already in tech. So Andrew Luck walked into a favorable scenario, but I feel like with Bryce Young, he's got that better O-line. The weapons, he doesn't have a Hall of Fame wide receiver, doesn't have T.Y., but the coaching is better in my opinion. I'll take our coaching staff over Chuck Pagano and with Bruce Arians as the offensive coordinator. I love Bruce Arians. But I'll take Frank Wright, Jim Caldwell, who was the predecessor in there. You know what I'm saying? Thomas Brown, James Campen, a good offensive line coach, a solid offensive line that can actually protect him. I'll take this scenario that the Panthers have over that Andrew Luck scenario. So I'll arguably say that this is the best scenario of resources that a quarterback has had at number 1 overall. I'll say it. And so I just think that it sets up Bryce to even have a better projection than some may realize. Now, obviously, everybody's holding their breath about the injuries and stuff, but like I said, the offensive line is in place. The offensive line is in place, unlike Andrew Luck. You know what I'm saying? So I like that recipe for success for Bryce Young. Yo, Panthers Nation, what's up, man? Y'all know your boy Aaron Duncan stays in the freshest gear, so you may be wondering what I have on, and today I am rocking a Bryce Young t-shirt and some cool looking kind of gym short stuff. I don't even know. It was like middle school gym short style from a company called Homage. And Homage is pretty dope. They're like the kings of the vintage gear. And y'all know I'm a sucker for vintage gear. So this is a nice, officially NFL licensed company. They do great work. This cotton feels amazing. You might catch me wearing this at Panthers training camp or at a game, regardless. And I know that Bryce Young gear is hard to come by. So if you want to get this little cartoon-looking logo with Bryce in the middle, it looks pretty good, a little sketch. Check out Homage. I have a link down below in the description. You'll get $20 off your first order. And if you use that link to get $20, I'll get $20 off my next order because I'll definitely be shopping again with them. And it's a good way to get you some gear with a discount, and it'll help me out as well. This is not a sponsored video. It should be, but I highly recommend Homage because I love this company, man. They got the little logo H here on the side. Everything about what they do is dope, man. And like I said, I love vintage stuff, so I will be shopping again, especially if you guys use my link and help me get $20 when you get $20 off. So shout out to Homage. So this next segment is called Matter of Fact. Yes, matter of fact is what I call it, or as a matter of fact. And I'll just give some stats and facts about the topic at hand. This is how this one's going to work. Like I said, I'm working with some segments now, guys. I'm trying to be organized. So this one is called as a matter of fact. Okay? So let's talk about the number one overall pick, because a lot of people are wondering about, like, oh, is Bryce Young going to be a bust? And this, that, and the third, drafting quarterbacks at the top. Only the hit rate is this, that, and the third. Okay, let's look at the stats. So I went back and looked at a list of quarterbacks drafted number one overall over the last 25 years. It's going all the way back to 1998. They may be before some of you guys' time that's watching this, which is scary to me because I'm 32 years old. I was born in 91. And to say that some of this stuff is before your time, it makes me feel old. Regardless, I got the stats for you. So there were 18 quarterbacks drafted out of the past 25 drafts. 18 quarterbacks drafted number one overall. Okay? Do you want me to list the names? Let's go with it. 2021 was Trevor. You got Joe in 2020, Kyler Murray 19, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Sam Bradford, Matthew Stafford, Jamarcus Russell, Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Carson Palmer, David Carr, Mike Vick, Tim Couch, and Peyton Manning was in 1998. So I try to use recent history with these stats just because 25 years is a decent body of to assess as far as statistically, especially when you have 18 quarterbacks on this list, because that gives us a lot of data. A lot of data. All right? So let's look at it. 18 out of those 18 quarterbacks drafted number one overall, 11 of them were the week one starter from the jump. Okay? Sometimes it doesn't work. Eli Manning comes to mind right away as not being the starter from the jump. I remember that to a T because I think Kurt Warner was a starter, but most of the time these guys get thrown into the fire. So 11 of the 18 has been a starter week one of their rookie year. Playing time, they've all got playing time in their first year, but 11 were week one starters, okay? Of those 18 drafted quarterbacks, number one overall, 13 of them were Pro Bowlers. 13 Pro Bowlers, not going to multiple Pro Bowlers. No, 13 of the 18 quarterbacks went to a Pro Bowl. So let's do the math. I'm not going to use my brain. I'm going to count during the week. But when I'm with you guys, I don't use my brain. So 13 divided by 18, 72% of quarterbacks drafted number one overall over the past 25 years are a Pro Bowler. Pro Bowler, yeah, it's a popularity contest at this point, but ain't no scrubs getting elected to the Pro Bowl. I mean, sometimes Tyler Huntley, I don't want to throw no shade, but he shouldn't have made a Pro Bowl. I'm just saying. 13 out of the last 18, okay? Next statistic. Of the 18 quarterbacks drafted number one overall over the past 25 years, only 2 of them have been all-pro quarterbacks. Now, all-pro, we know what that means. All-pro means you are the best at your position that year. So only 2 out of the 18 quarterbacks drafted were the best quarterback in the league at some point. One of them is Cam Newton. Obviously, the MVP year, he just rocked it out of this world. And then number 2, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, multiple all-pro years, of course. He's been one of the perennial best regular season quarterbacks of all time. So only 2 all-pro. That's fine. Do you need all-pro quarterbacks to win Super Bowls? No. Next statistic, next fact. As a matter of fact, out of the 18 quarterbacks drafted number one overall, there have been 2 MVPs and 4 candidates that finished top 5 in votes, okay? So MVPs are voted on by the press and some other stuff, of course. Cam Newton was the MVP, Peyton Manning, of course, those 2. But there are 4 other candidates that got Pro Bowl votes. Thinking of Carson Palmer comes to mind. Who else? Mike Vick got some votes, I think, too. He got co-MVP that one year when he came back with the Eagles. Who else? Carson Palmer as well. Carson Palmer, the year that Cam Newton won MVP, he got some votes. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck got some MVP votes. I think in 2019 or 20, something like that. One of those years. But 4 have gotten MVP votes. So not bad. I mean, 4 out of 18 have played MVP caliber football. Like, that may not mean there may be perennial MVP candidates, but we know that's their ceiling. You know, if that's their ceiling, you can figure out what, because some guys, they don't reach their ceiling, and 2, they don't have that ceiling. So if you at least have MVP caliber ceiling, you can do things to try to curate scenarios to make them continue to play that MVP caliber of football. So that just lets me know that 4 divided by 18, 22% of those guys drafted have had MVP ceilings. I'll take that. An MVP caliber ceiling from Bryce Young would be amazing. Like I said, we would just have to curate an environment and scenarios and circumstances to keep him playing at that caliber of play consistently. Cam Newton, we only got 1 good year out of that, plus the 2018 year that was cut short, because they didn't continually put weapons and protection around him to keep him at his ceiling. I still think there was untapped potential in Cam's career, even above that MVP level, because he did that without his best wide receiver in Kelvin Benjamin, you know? So having that type of ceiling lets you know what he's capable of. That's half the battle. If he can get, like I said, if he has it in him at least, you just got to keep doing things to facilitate him being at that level. Next, as a matter of fact, of the 18 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall over the past 25 years, 8 have a career-winning record. Yes. You can put 9 in there if you want to count Eli. Eli finished his career 500, which is the epitome of Eli Manning. Like, led the league in interceptions multiple times, but also has 2 Super Bowl championship rings and historic playoff runs. The highs and the lows ends up putting you in the middle right there with Eli Manning at 500 for his career. But he's not a loser. So 9 out of 18 have a career winning percentage above 500. And like I said, that's not even counting Trevor Lawrence, who just started turning things around with his team. You know, things are still to be determined with him. But the Jaguars had a breakout year, went to the playoffs, had a good coach, so we expect that record to even out eventually. It probably should even out this year, honestly, if they win some games. So 50% of the quarterbacks drafted have had 500 or better records. That seems like winning to me. Seems pretty good to me. So, like I said, the numbers for number 1 overall picks, they seem pretty good. As a matter of fact, and my other point, this is a big telltale. Of the 18 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall over the past 25 years, 10 of them have signed a second contract with the team that drafted them. 10 out of 18. What's that percentage? It's over 50. I know that. 55.555% of quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall over the past 25 years have signed a second contract. Obviously, a couple of these guys aren't eligible yet. Joe Burrow, he's eligible, hasn't done it yet. Trevor Lawrence, we fully expect him to do it based off of how he progressed last year. Joe Burrow is pending. He's going to break the bank. So you can go ahead and make that number 11 and probably 12 if you think about Trevor. So, hypothetically, 12 out of 18 is 66.6%. And the second contract, the reason why I bring that up is because we saw this year, a lot of guys don't get their 5th-year option guaranteed, and signing a contract extension on the draft pick after your rookie deal is kind of the big telltale on if a guy was a bust or if he was a good pick. Now, sometimes guys hit free agency, they go to different teams to turn up, but if he was good enough for what he did on his rookie contract, the team that drafted him and invested years in him would have gave him that deal. They would have. But like I said, the second contract is a big indicator. And so 10 currently, 11 if you count Burrow pending, and potentially 12 with Trevor. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. 2 out of 3 quarterbacks can do that. Okay? Last but not least, as a matter of fact, of the 18 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall in the last 25 years, 3 have won a Super Bowl. We got Peyton Manning, we got Eli Manning, and we got Matthew Stafford. Yes, 3. 3 of them have won a Super Bowl. 3 have won a Super Bowl. 3 out of 18. So it's 3 divided by 18. 16.6%. 16.6%. So a 16% chance that the quarterback you draft number 1 overall can take your team to a Super Bowl. That's not that great, but what are the odds of going to a Super Bowl of a quarterback winning a Super Bowl anyway? We can double take this. Okay, what about guys that went to a Super Bowl? If you went to a Super Bowl, and do you want to count Alex Smith? He was, a backup to Colin Kaepernick? I don't even know if he was on the team. You could throw Joe Burrow in there and Jared Goff. They both went to a Super Bowl, and Cam Newton. So 6 at least got you to the game to have a chance. So 6 out of 18 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall have won a conference championship and actually had a chance to win a Super Bowl, with only half of those winning it. So that's 33%. So 33% of the quarterbacks drafted over the last 25 years, number 1 overall, have taken their team to a Super Bowl. I like a 1 out of 3 chance of Bryce Young taking us to the Super Bowl. If history and the stats repeat themselves, I like the 33% chance that Bryce Young will at least take us to a Super Bowl at some point in his career. Like I said, only half of them won it. But it is what it is. A couple of them did it multiple times. Peyton Manning did it, 3 times? He lost to the Seahawks, lost to the Saints, and he did it 3 times. Eli did it twice. I mean, it sounds pretty good to me. Just give me a chance. Give me a chance. That means we're at least there knocking on the door. We got to get it done this time if we go. We have to get it done a second time if we go. Please, Bryce. Please, Bryce. Like I said, as a matter of fact, for this segment, I love as a matter of fact segment, man. All these stats are courtesy of Pro Football Reference. You can vet it if you want to. I did the research, so you don't have to. As a matter of fact, I like this segment name. Like I told you, I'm naming the segments, guys. I'm naming the segments. As a matter of fact. Okay? A quick question real quick. Do you like sports? Of course you do. You're watching this sports channel. Of course, it's unnecessary bluntness sports talk. But how about making money? Yeah, we all like making money. Bills got to get paid. But how about doing both at the same time? Sounds good? Well, I want to tell you about the partner I've been working with, Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest way to get some action in sports and also make these games a little bit more interesting. Right now, they have their pick'em option that they're doing, and I've been all over it for the NBA playoffs. So it's pretty straightforward. All you got to do is just pick higher or lower on your favorite or least favorite, I guess, player stats for the night, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. And one of my favorite parts about Underdog Fantasy is the pick'em insurance, because none of us are perfect. So this gives you a little extra wiggle room. So if one of your guys that you have on your slip misses, you still have a chance to collect some money because of that pick'em insurance got your back. So here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and download the Underdog Fantasy app and use the code DUNKON100 to get a 100% match on your first deposit for my gift to you, and we can bet along together. You can even follow me on Twitter, where I post most of my underdog picks on a daily basis. We can all get paid together. And their mobile app is pretty slick, and their website is pretty straightforward too, so you'll have no problem jumping right in and getting to the bread like me. Must be 18 years or older to play and be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Are you concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.mcpgambling.org for help. So my closing thoughts on everything, man, and it's going to be an interesting time, man. Like I said, it's been 11, 12 years since we drafted a quarterback like this, number 1 overall in the first round at that. You know what I'm saying? So this is just an exciting time if you look at it that way. I talked about the skeptics before. We're trying to do something that really hasn't been done before. I listed all those statistics in that matter of fact section, but everybody would say that those were quarterbacks with more ideal measurables. I mean, maybe you could say Kyler and, of course, Baker Mayfield didn't have ideal measures, but Bryce Young is even smaller than those guys. You know what I'm saying? So we're really in uncharted territory and trying to do things that's never been done. And I'll admit, before we traded up to number 1, I didn't want to trade up and draft Bryce Young. I was like, if we trade up, let's go ahead and take Stroud. You can see Stroud. You can picture Stroud in your mind. He's a pocket passer. He's what we've not seen before, what we're comfortable with. He's inside that box in that mold of a quarterback. From the pocket, if you protect him, the ball placement, he can dice it, slice and dice the defense. I like C.J. Stroud's game, and I was like, let's take that. Because if we're risking all this stuff to move up to number 1, why would we double down on risk and take an undersized quarterback? That's my thought. That was my thought process before, like that straight up. And then somebody told me, they were just like, why would you want to play it safe if you traded up? And I told them, I was like, man, he's small. They were just like, you know what playing it safe gets you? Playing it safe gets you 8-1. Playing it safe gets you 8-9 every year. Playing it safe gets you 9-8 every year. I'm thinking Kirk Cousins. That's what playing it safe does. It puts you stuck in that rut where you don't know if the guy's the franchise quarterback or not, or if you should get rid of him. You end up being that bar. It used to be the Andy Dalton rule. Like, if your guy was better than Andy Dalton, you're good with a franchise quarterback. If he's worse, you need to get better. I think the line has shifted a little bit as starting quarterbacks have reshuffled. I think Kirk Cousins is that guy. Is your quarterback better than Kirk Cousins? You're good. Is he worse than Kirk Cousins? You need to get a better quarterback. And so playing it safe, that's what gets you. Playing it safe gets you 8-1. That's your record. So take some risk. Patrick Mahomes was very unorthodox. It was risky. But they took a risk. They sat him on the bench. They moved on from Alex Smith, who had been a steady quarterback, multiple double-digit win seasons, multiple playoff berths. It was a risk. And it has paid dividends for them. I like to think of me, I'm a gambler. So when I go to the casino, I have X amount of money. And I'm like, look, I'm not going for broke in here, but I have an X amount of money that I budget and I don't plan on taking home with me. If I win money, fine. But there's a couple $100 or whatever I do, then I'm like, hey, if I lose this, I budgeted for losing this. This is a vacation expense for me. And so I have that risk in my mind, and I have a plan set up that, like, when I'm playing with that money, it's house money. I'm doubling down. I'm taking my, I'm being smart or whatever and doing a lot of research. And if I get up, I'm taking my money out. But I have a plan in place that I'm willing to risk whatever with that pot of money that I bring in. And so, like, I'm ashamed almost that I was being so passive and conservative in terms of what I wanted to draft after trading up. But I feel good about Bryce now. I got the shirt on. I got 2 jerseys. Unfortunately, thanks to fanatics in their draft pick jersey pre-order things, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I am the captain of the Kool-Aid pitcher. I'm drinking that Bryce Young Kool-Aid. And I just think it's time for our fan base to rally around Bryce Young. Like, I think too many people are so dug in on trying to be right, which is why we see the whole J.C. Horn, Justin Fields thing, instead of just rooting for J.C. Horn, who has the potential to be a top-notch corner in his league. They're too focused on wanting to be right and say, I told you so, to their fellow Panthers fans, than rooting for the team and worrying about the team. Because, like I said, they're crickets and quiet when they're wrong, like with Derek Brown and Isaiah Simmons. But they try to be loud and proud when they think they're right with J.C. Horn and Justin Fields, even though Fields hasn't even proven anything either. There's just a toxic type of fan base that's been accumulated because of the transgressions of Matt Rule and David Tepper over these past, 3, 4, 5 seasons since Cam Newton and Ron Rivera have left. But like I said, I'm the captain of the Kool-Aid pitcher. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid, but I just think there's a lot of voices in this fan base, not to call any names because it's widespread. There's a lot of voices in this space that thrive off negativity. The running joke was cracking jokes about Matt Rule, slamming Matt Rule every day, hating every move that he's ever made. Those guys, what are they doing now? Like, can you even talk ball when positive things are going on? Because positive things are going on, and I'm seeing skepticism. That's wrong. Not even like, oh, you respect your opinion. Like, yeah, you can have an opinion, but your opinion can be wrong. Like, they thrived off negativity and built the clout and credibility and the laughs and giggles from being negative because that was the thing to do with Rule, because I even participated in it myself. But now that things seem to be going in the right direction, they don't know what to say. They have to keep forcing those negative narratives because that's what they built their reputation on. They can't talk ball when things are going good. They can't talk ball on good players that we do have. They're just predisposed to negativity. You don't even know how to talk ball when they look optimistic. They're really exposing themselves. So, man, just pay attention, man. Pay attention to the narratives of what people are saying. Like I said, you ain't got to drink the Kool-Aid. You ain't got to be rah-rah like everybody else or like me. I'm not saying you have to do that. But let's just give a guy Bryce Young a chance, man. Quit trying to be right about saying and trying to say I told you so, and let's get behind this guy, man. We haven't had a franchise quarterback since Cam Newton retired. And like I said, a lot of the fan base came on, so all they knew was having a franchise quarterback. It wasn't something they had to worry about. Cam was here 8, 9 years. They just became NFL fans when Cam came. I think Bryce Young joining this team, if he can do what I think he's going to do, and look, we talked about statistics having a second contract, that's 7, 8 years, of course, if you make it through both contracts. I think that there's going to be a lot of young Panthers fans that the only franchise quarterback they know is Bryce Young as they come up and mature as an NFL fan and grow and learn the game and start having, I hope they have good and great memories of Bryce as we did with Cam, as some of you guys did with Cam when you first came to this fan base. So I think it's pretty interesting and cool to think about that, how like I said, we're just repeating things again because we have a franchise quarterback that we drafted. There's going to be young guys that see Bryce and love his play style and love who he is and his personality, and they're going to gravitate to the fan base and jump on that bandwagon, and that's going to be the quarterback they know. Bryce Young is going to be their Cam Newton. And we can only hope that we get half the great memories that we got from Cam. But I'm excited about Bryce Young's potential, man, and everything that has to go with it. But regardless, I appreciate you guys listening to the Panther Banter Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Duncan. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Yes, that way you download every episode. I really appreciate it. Audio listeners, you guys know you have a special place in my heart. Video listeners, you're missing out on audio. You're missing out on audio. There's opportunities for giveaways if you listen to the audio. It's not something you're going to get on video, so make sure you go and check that out. Make sure you are subscribed to the Panther Banter Podcast on whatever platform you listen to. You can subscribe to Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk on YouTube if you love seeing my pretty face every episode instead. You can do both if you really want to support your boy. Yeah, I would appreciate that for real. But without further ado, I'm signing off. Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk, Panther Banter. I'm out of here. Peace.